Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Back today to talk about Graveyard Shift by ML Rio. This is the latest offering from ML Rio, who you'll probably know from her very famous book If We Were Villains, one of TikTok's very favourite dark academia books, which I read back in 2018 and I really loved. I'm not the first person to point this out, but it is basically the secret history for Shakespeare nerds, and of course I was going to love that. So I was very intrigued to see whatever she wrote next. And from the sounds of it, reading the acknowledgements to this book, it doesn't seem like we have too long to wait for her next book. She mentions how she was writing 2 books at once and was finding it quite stressful, so perhaps we won't be waiting as long as 7 years for the next book. One can only hope. But anyway, staying focused onto this book, this is a novella with the story taking place over the course of one night, 10 hours, from midnight to 10 AM. We start off meeting these 5 different characters who are all working the late shift and all converge around this cemetery near their school to have their little ritualized smoke break. In terms of these 5, we have Edie, who is editor-in-chief of her college newspaper, very ambitious, always on the hunt for the latest story, but it kind of seems like there's a little bit of writer's block when it comes to the news department. Theo, who is a bartender, so obviously is working the night shift there. Hannah, a lifelong insomniac who is working as a rideshare driver. Tuck, who is the most mysterious figure of the group. He is some way related to this derelict church, hence the nickname that they give for him of Friar Tuck. And finally Tamar, who is a hotel receptionist, probably the most normal, level-headed one of the group. And we kind of get the impression from the first chapter that these are 5 people who probably wouldn't really interact in their real life, but there is something about the ritual of this witching hour smoke break that kind of brings them together. There is a little bit of camaraderie, a bit of banter, but it's not necessarily the same kind of ease and familiarity of true friends. They are crossing paths for their smoke break on another October night and are surprised to find a freshly dug hole in this graveyard, which to all extents and purposes should not be there because this is a defunct churchyard. And so the question emerges, who dug it and why? The group take time to discuss it, but then disband, going about their separate ways. But Edie and Tuck stay in the graveyard to kind of uncover a bit more, and stay in the graveyard long enough to see the gravedigger come back, returning to deposit something. And it's this discovery that gets the whole group on board to spend their night uncovering the truth behind this grave, and whether or not what they saw could possibly be linked to some hostile incidents that have been occurring in their town recently. What follows is a night-long mystery, unfurling themes of insomnia, medical ethics, and what can get done in one night with the result of teamwork. I would say the strength of this book is definitely its opening. ML Rio is really adept at creating the atmosphere and the eeriness around this setup. I can definitely imagine somebody cozying up with this book late at night. If you are yet to read this, then definitely I would say pick it up in the next couple of weeks and try and power through this whole novella late at night. I feel like you'd really get the full effect of this book, being up late on a cold night alongside our protagonists. However, if you are hoping for that creepiness to sustain throughout the full novella, you might find yourself a little bit disappointed, I'm not gonna lie. I definitely felt uneasy, but I never dreaded anything. I'd probably characterise this as being like horror light, which you would think would suit me because I am pretty much a scaredy cat and I generally do not read horror. But it was a bit of a disappointment because I felt myself expecting something horrifying to happen and then it never would. They would just move on to the next part of the investigation and I was like, wait, was that it? Every time a new lead is uncovered, every time we think the tension is building, it just kind of fizzles out into nothing. In terms of those horror elements, I'll definitely warn that there is animal death and illness discussed in this book, definitely suggested by this cover, but even those elements are pretty toned down, I would say. And I think that is my main issue with this book, is that it is just devoid of any sort of tension and urgency, when the only real driving force behind this book is the fact that there is a newspaper deadline to go to print. I don't know, I just feel like that loses any sort of impact, and the explanations that are uncovered about this mystery are kind of mundane and boring. I really enjoyed the characterizations of this group of 5 at the beginning of the book. As I say, I thought they had good banter, I thought they kind of bounced off of each other really well, but as we got further on into this book, not so much. I don't know who needs to hear this, but smoking and having insomnia does not a personality make. And yeah, I was disappointed to see how strong these characterizations were at the beginning, only for them to devolve as the book went on. I was really keen to see how these different personalities would react to what they were finding out, but each chapter is basically a repeat of, hi, here's what this person's up to. Side note that they've smoked an entire pack of cigarettes this night and they haven't slept. Here's what they've discovered since last time you saw them. Rinse, repeat. As opposed to any real characterization. And I wonder how much of that is because there isn't the group dynamic that there was in the first chapter. They kind of separate off and do their own thing. Yes, they are working as part of a group, but you don't get that same dynamic as you did right at the beginning of the book. It feels so odd to say that individual character chapters end up giving you less character to work with than a group chapter. How does that work? I also just generally question whether a novella was the best form to tell this story. I honestly felt like it should be 100 pages longer in order to really fully uncover this mystery, to give it kind of the time and space that it needed. Yes, I understand that ML Rio was trying to do this all in one one night, but I felt we did just jump around a lot and the book kind of ends very abruptly without wrapping everything up, as I feel like would be satisfying. I just want another 100 pages to be able to really build up the mystery, bulk out the characters and answer some questions. But as it is, this novella isn't long enough to really develop the plot and the characters in a way that is satisfying. At the end of reading this, while it is very atmospheric and very nicely written, I felt like I just wanted more. More creepiness, more character, more depth, more explanation. A good one if you're wanting just a quick thing for Halloween, but if you're wanting something as a successor to If We Were Villains, you might be a little bit disappointed. So there we go, those are my mixed thoughts on Graveyard Shift by ML Rio. Do let me know if you've read this book, what you thought of it. Alternatively, let me know about any Halloween reads that you've read recently. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.